president, who will address the nation this evening to outline his response. Let's speak to OUTA's CEO, Wayne Duvenage, who joins us now. Wayne, thank you so much for the time this morning. Appreciate it. Then, what's the right move here? I mean, the president cannot be putting forward another inquiry, surely?
No, certainly not. These take a long time. I think he has to take action, and better still, if Mchunu just agrees or decides to step down, that's the right thing to do to save the president from the pain of having to ask him to do so. So that's the first thing. But it's not just the minister; there are others implicated. And I think there's going to be a reshuffle. We've got Nkabane, who's accused of being misleading Parliament. So I think the president's going to take the opportunity to do a good reshuffle of a number of positions to try and save face, because this is not the first time. It's not going to be the last time that we hear of allegations of serious misconduct by people in positions of political power.
Outside of just having then put forward or possibly putting forward a cabinet reshuffle, what actually happens in this process? Because then it just feels like we're still going to get an investigation, because even if you remove Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, ultimately one might still want a little bit more from this, right? Because if there are linkages to criminal activity, then that needs to be dealt with with criminal intent.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We cannot just have a reshuffle and people pushed aside. I mean, look at Minister Similani in the Ministry of Justice, who was just pushed aside or moved to another department, and a lot of questions still hanging over her involvement in VBS and other matters. And it's not good enough. The whole criminal justice system is laboring heavily. We need some reform there. And we can't just sweep these matters aside. There's a lot of investigation that needs to take place. The public are getting fed up with the lack of accountability, lack of transparency into what's been happening behind the scenes, and we need some answers. But what we don't need is another commission of inquiry that will take a while and nothing happens, as we saw with the Zondo Commission. No recommendations, no accountability, nobody has no consequences. And that's really what is worrying the public at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So from here then, if we're waiting for this movement, this decision then later on tonight to come to bear, and perhaps he decides he's going to actually step down with, Mchunu as well as maybe Nkabane might step down, a shuffle of this cabinet ultimately at play then. And then he says that an inquiry or investigation gets in. A little bit earlier, I was speaking to another guest who was speaking about how we need to have an arm that is separate from government at this point in time, dealing with matters of corruption as well. How pertinent and important is that?
Extremely important. We have the National Anti-Corruption Strategy that was been spoken about for years, and the committee being put together, but nothing's happening. I think, again, it is just too closely linked to the president. We do need another Section 9, a very separate entity, and separated from the powers that be, so that we can deal with corruption meaningfully, with the powers to start holding people to account. We haven't had that since the Scorpions have been disbanded. And I think it's time. It's long overdue now. We need to see swift action, meaningful action. We need civil society involved. There's a lot of information that we have from whistleblowers. And that's the other thing. Whistleblowers need to be protected meaningfully as well. So a lot of work has to be done in this space. And I don't get a sense that there's enough political will to do so. And that's because there are too many people in positions of power that are compromised. And that's why there's this reluctance to go down this road.
Wayne, look, I know you're not necessarily a political analyst here, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Whose credibility is most at stake here? Is it President Cyril Ramaphosa's, or is it the ANC's? And I say that just because President Cyril Ramaphosa is in his final term here as president, so perhaps having less to lose ultimately than maybe the ANC, which is still sitting at 40% and may still want to galvanize people and ensure that they actually are fighting corruption.
Well, it's both. I don't think you can separate the two. Cyril Ramaphosa is head of the ANC. The ANC has been losing ground rapidly over the last number of years. Every election they lose more. And unless they address what they need to do, and I don't know how they do that, especially with the compromised leadership of the ANC right now, they will have less than 40% at the next national elections in 4 years' time. They'll certainly have far less than that and lose a number of the metros in the local elections less than 18 months' time. So, what they're going to do to try and stave off that decline, one will be interested to see. But there's no doubt this is a political matter, and Cyril Ramaphosa is head of that party. And I think they're in a very, very difficult position now.
Do you see the GNU perhaps coming into arms almost then if no decisive action is actually taken by President Cyril Ramaphosa tonight?
It's a very difficult one. The GNU is very necessary. I think you have this marriage, this unhappy marriage between two big political parties who cannot really turn to other parties to resolve this matter. And so they have to continue to get through this difficult period. We, the public, need that. I know it's not always agreed to by everybody, but the world is watching. Our economy is watching. It's very precarious at the moment. But I don't think we can afford a split in the GNU. I think we have to get through this very difficult times. But that now rests in the lap of the ANC and its leadership. And they've got to address the really what people see as a corrupt political party that is trying to keep its head above water, and it's drowning.
Yeah. Just overall, there are two positions mooted for possible cabinet reshuffle today. Any others in mind for you?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but certainly those two. And I think the president might seek one or two others just to deflect as much as he can from the challenges that they have. But it'll be very interesting to see what he does do. But as you said, it goes well beyond just a political or a parliamentary cabinet reshuffle. Sorry, this requires meaningful feedback to the nation about what is actually going to happen and how swiftly it's going to happen. And then we need to hold him to account to keep to the timelines so that we can have answers.
Yeah, very important. Wayne Duvenage, appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us.